all fired up. We're back. We have a special AFU interview today. We have a very special guest, someone who's never been on our show before. I can't wait to introduce him. But first, before we introduce him, we've got our crew here, our panel. Coming from LA, he's an American Ninja Warrior. He's a supermodel. I believe he's on the practice squad with the Seahawks right now. Mr. Jordan Fox.
How's it going, everybody? Today's actually a very important day. I thought about Clax when I saw this morning. 22 years ago today, let's see, my man David Wells pitched a perfect game hungover.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And what a proud moment in Yankee history it was.
Over 24 beers the night before. He's a good man. Coming from Arizona, but he is LA's finest, Mr. Puddles himself, John Guerrero.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, he's got a new nickname, Puddles. You could work with that as we go a little longer into this, Eric. And as always, producer extraordinaire, Emmy award-winning producer extraordinaire, Mr. Joey Clax.
What's up? Knicks, 4 seed. Been saying it all day. Nobody wants to reply to my text messages.
No.
you guys are jerk-offs. It's 4 seed. Big deal.
All right. You know what is a big deal? Our special guest on the show today. You might have seen him on America's Got Talent. You might see him from his time working with MTV. I personally love him because of his podcast, which we're going to get into because the podcast is killing it on Spotify. It's one of my favorites right now. Mr. ERICK HELLWIG, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. You know, I don't know if the listeners can know how you bring people on, but in the pre-show interview, he's like, you should see the guys we get on this show. We've got the guy that waxes Lady Gaga's pubes. We've got the guy that got some chick I met at a Kroger that gave me a hand job in the aisle. And then we're going to have you. And I was like, out of all those people, I still sound like the least famous. So thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, it was either you or Lil Wayne's transvestite tattoo artist. So we went with you. We just thought it was
okay,
great.
Great.
So listen, we want to kind of break it down and kind of lead up to where you are in your life at this point. So where did you grow up? Did you grow up I know you said you're in LA right now. You're on the West Coast. Did you grow up on the West Coast or are you an East Coast guy?
No, it's very important that people know I'm not from LA. Just likability factor just immediately tanks. So my dad was in the Army. I moved around a lot when I was a kid. I settled in the DC area right before high school. And so I went to high school in Virginia, college in Virginia, and then I moved to New York when I was 21. So I was in New York for 11 years. I really consider myself from New York just because I was in a new school every year until high school. That's how often we were moving. So New York for 11 years was by far the longest I've ever lived somewhere. For the majority of that time, I was living in Harlem. Had to move out when it got gentrified. I'm the only white guy to get gentrified out of Harlem in American history. So fun fact about me. You can throw that on my Wikipedia. And and then we moved out to LA, me and my wife, about 3 years ago. I unfortunately have to count the last year as one of those years. It feels like we just moved out here, but I guess if you include COVID, it was exactly 3 years ago because when we moved out, I'm a huge Eagles fan. My dad brainwashed me. Moving around the country didn't matter. I was an Eagles fan growing up. But we got out here on February 1st, 2018, and the Eagles went to the Super Bowl like 4 days later, whatever it was. So the first thing I did after driving across the country for 2 weeks to move here was get on a plane, fly back to Philly, and meet my dad in the city with my sister and my brother and watch the Eagles win the Super Bowl, and then fly back to LA and start moving in and doing all that stuff. So wow. Yeah, that's the story of how where I've been and all that stuff.
Did you go to the parade?
No. So we saw the Eagles win, and then we went in the street, and I climbed on a fire truck. We were having a great time. It was starting to get like a little like, think people might get hurt, and like my dad's older, and he's like shivering in the cold and rain. We're like, all right, let's go back. But even just driving, because we were staying at my my grandparents' home. They had actually just passed away kind of soon before that, but we still had the home in my dad's name. So we were crashing there. They lived in North Philly. So the drive from the bar downtown to where they lived usually would have been like 10 minutes. It took us a full 2 hours to get home. Like this, it was just people like breakdancing on their cars, like all this like racial unity. My dad's like doing the black guy handshake with little kids. It was crazy. And it's like, we're doing that driving home. I was like, this is like the America we could be. If like somehow America could win the Super Bowl, what would that even mean? It would be, this is the most racial harmony I've ever seen in my life. So it was really, I mean, it's easily one of the best top 3 moments in my life was even just the drive home from the bar to my grandparents' home at whatever it was at that point, 3 o'clock in the morning, was just something I'll never forget.
So I got a question for you based on this. So since you were there, we've been having a debate on our show for months now. It has to do with a statue that's outside the stadium there. There's a Nick Foles statue.
Yeah,
Not to be confused with the Rocky statue.
Yeah.
The Nick Foles. What's your thoughts on there being a Nick Foles statue outside of that stadium there?
Well, I love Nick Foles. I'm very happy there was a statue there. I think the person that probably bothered more was Carson Wentz, who was like walking by it like a cuck every day for 3 years, being like, they still love me, right? Like, I'm sure he wasn't super thrilled. That I've said this before on my podcast, but like a lot of decisions that kind of doom the Eagles and other NFL teams feels like a failure to understand like human nature. Like if like, dude, like here's the thing. There's no question that Nick, like the right move is to like commit to Carson Wentz after, even though Nick Foles won the Super Bowl. But like as a human being, it's like maybe wait for the statue for like another 2 years or something. Like it's literally like if there was a statue of the dude my wife was banging before me, like in the kitchen. I had to walk by it every day to like go get like a sandwich. I'd be like, even if I'd tell myself I was cool with it, at some point, like the first time I stubbed my toe on it, I'd be like, you got to put the fucking statue right where I sit. Like I'd have to throw a bed sheet over it so I could get a turkey sandwich at 2 o'clock in the morning and not stare this son of a bitch in the eyes. Like it's just not. What they were asking of Carson Wentz felt inhuman in a way. And he's already like, I already think he's kind of a pussy, like a football pussy, which means like 10 times tougher than me, but not Ray Lewis. So like the type of metal you would have to handle a statue of your own backup at the stadium. It was just insane. Like, I don't know. I'm a jealous person. I couldn't handle it. I feel like if we're really honest, most people couldn't handle it. Even great athletes would be like, the second the wheels start to come off, you go, man, fuck this city, fuck this organization, and fuck that goddamn statue. I think it's like in your head. So it just feels
described
like
it.
That's how we've been thinking as well. So I just wanted to see if a Philly fan was on the same page as us with that call. So you are.
That just described Carson Wentz to a T. So
right.
And here's the thing, like it's like I don't. Some Eagles fans are probably like pissed at Carson Wentz. I'm not, man. Like I feel bad for the guy. Like it's not his fault that it's like people don't find it charismatic when you just murder hundreds of deer and post photos with their fucking corpses. Like some people like that, but like it's not like the most popular thing to do. It's not his fault. Like he's just a kid from North Dakota that likes to beat up on D2 athletes and kill deer. Like he didn't ask for that.
Highest quarterback in the league too.
Dude, it's just like put your players in a position to do well. And also like what's crazy as an Eagles fan is like we're obviously a psycho fan base, but we're an informed fan base too. Like I think Philly fans understand the game. Like they boo people that don't like lay out to catch a pass. Like we're not just booing because they suck. We're booing because we see like a lack of effort sometimes, or we can tell when someone's giving up, or we can tell when someone's not backing up on a play in baseball or whatever. Like there's a there's a little bit of an intelligence to the booing. But like, if they had just traded Carson Wentz and Nick Foles was the quarterback the year after the Super Bowl and they went 5-11, I think we all would have been cool with it. I mean, it's just like, it's a principle thing. It's like,
Now you
that
got
dude won the
neither.
Super Bowl.
Now you got neither.
Yeah, like, if Carson Wentz has to go win 2 Super Bowls with the Dolphins now over the next 15 years because his backup magically won in Philly, and we felt the moral thing was to just ride the Nick Foles train into hell, it's like, I could go to sleep. I could go to sleep knowing that we did that.
Yep.
You know, it's like, I don't know. I've made this comparison before, but it's like, I play pickup basketball. I'm not good. Usually I drag the team down, whatever team I'm on loses. But if I win, they don't get to go, okay, let's run it back, but replace the fat white guy that we thought was a point guard. It's like, I still won. Like, I still get to play the next team. And then usually I get my ass kicked. They put their best player on me. I turn the ball over 10 times and we lose. Fine. But like, that's the ethical thing. And it's like, why would you, I don't know any time that's really worked. I mean, I think of like the Ravens after they won with Trent Dilfer. When people are like, we were this close or we won, but let's just like change the guy at the top real quick and see if that works. It's like, no, dude, whatever that magic potion is you found, like, football nerds think they can fuck with magic, but like people who play sports are like, if that's the Bull Durham line, if you think it's because you haven't showered for 2 weeks, that's why you haven't lost, then that's why. Like, whatever it is in here, you don't fuck with this. This is, yep. I'm talking like I played football. I did not. But it's like, I at least acknowledge, like, I'm not trying to be the smartest guy in the room and game people out. It's like, athletes are athletes. Like, let them do their thing. If they win the Super Bowl, like, I feel like the GM should have to like take a vacation for 9 months.
Yeah, well, there's no
team should get to go again.
There's no more like feel like especially we were talking about baseball recently. Like even Albert Pujols, when he got cut, one of the big problems he had was his coach doesn't even make the lineup. The owner and the GM look at analytics and numbers and they created no feel just based off of numbers. And to me, sports is a lot of feel, like you said, an emotion. And if you kind of eliminate that in your thought pattern, you're in a lot of trouble, in my opinion.
Yeah, you gotta, I'm not saying like you have to be like some old dipshit that like won't look at the weather channels like, ooh, like you can like use a little bit of technology. I'm not like against everything, but like it feels like it's gone too far. It's just society, man. Society, generally speaking, is less personal, you know, like dating. It's like, I remember when I was dating my wife, who's not that much younger than me, but like I would like call her. She'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm talking to you on the phone. Like I don't want to spend my time, like, just talk. Like, that's a real thing of like, people just don't want to do, people don't just value the human part of stuff now. Interactions, like, I don't know, that maybe that's a stretch, but like, fucking Nick Foles won the Super Bowl. Like,
Joey Clax remembers,
right?
He was in his 50s before texting even came out, so he remembers just talking on the phone.
Joey remembers having a nice date and then sending up a smoke signal and being like, "Please, I hope she sees this."
Hey, listen, man. If anybody understands, the only person I talk to on the phone is my wife, and it's the same routine.
Yep.
Why are we talking? Because you're the only person I talk to. You're the only person I don't dislike. So what's the problem? Like, you should be flattered.
That's true. He won't talk to me. Hey, Eric, I got a question. So you're a comedian. Were you always like a class clown growing up? Were you like the funny kid in school, or is this something that kind of developed as you got a little bit older?
No, I was not funny in school. I don't think. I think I was funny with my friends, but I mean, I was new every single year until I think 8th grade was the first year that I knew the kids from 7th grade. And then I went to high school and it was all new kids again. So essentially high school was the first time that like I felt comfortable and had like a group of, like, I can't remember anybody's name that I went to school with before high school, which is weird. So like, I think I was.
That's good. You want to know why that's good? You want to know why that's good? Because,
why is that good?
Because, you know, social media is a really funny thing. And I've got Facebook and Instagram, and I've got people on there that I went to elementary school with and middle school with. And I got to be honest, I could care less about any of them. Like,
Yeah, but now you know what they're up to,
like, I
which
don't need to
is really
see like, the person
unimportant.
that was gorgeous when we were in middle school now weighs 300 pounds. I don't care. Or the 300 pounder is now gorgeous. Like you just don't know. And you're not missing much is all I'm saying with that. Okay.
Yeah, no, I would trade that to have childhood memories with friends. You son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Obviously, obviously, what I described is way worse than what you're. Oh, look,
As you
no,
call yourself to sleep every night.
no, it's fine. Like, here's the thing: like, when you're a kid, you don't know what you're missing with that stuff. But like, I'm bringing up my wife again, but like when I started dating my wife, and she's from Long Island and lived there her whole life. And so she's like looking at photos, and there's like her and her best friend that I know I met as a 25-year-old girl or whatever. She's like, here's us playing soccer when we're 6 and our dads were the coaches. And I'm like, why is there a single tear running down my eye? Because I don't have any of that. Like, all that's gone. And like, so this will sound weird, but like the people I knew the closest, like I have 3 younger siblings. My dad was in the Army, so he was gone a lot. But like, I used to spend a lot of time like making my mom laugh and like cheering her up that she was raising 4 kids in Fort Polk, Louisiana, or wherever the fuck you were. So like a lot of my comedy, I think, comes from that, which is like just trying to like keep people happy. You know, I was the oldest of the 4 kids, so there was a lot of like responsibility on me for that. And this is obviously a way sadder answer than you were expecting, and I can see everybody thinking how they'll kill themselves when I'm done talking. So I'll end it at that. But no, I was not like a class clown. I was a good student, and I think I just kind of found my desire to be funny, like as a transition from, because I had like real jobs, and I was like doing those jobs being like, I'll be a funny teacher, I'll be a funny journalist. And it took me a while to be like, I can just be funny. And I didn't really start doing stand-up until I was 28. I was doing improv in New York, but that doesn't count. Like it was a process to get to where I am now, just telling jokes.
No, and I was going to kind of get to the scene in New York is amazing. I lived in Manhattan for 10 years before moving out west, and I grew up in Queens, but I lived in Manhattan, and so did Joey Clax at the time as well. And you lived right upstairs from a comedy club, didn't you, Clax?
From the Laugh Factory, yeah.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah,
literally
on
upstairs.
42nd and 8th.
Yeah.
So like between that place and a lot of the small I had a cousin that was in like these little improv troupes, and they would do these tiny little places, and I'd go to every one of them, and there'd be sometimes 7 of us, sometimes 70. You never know. And it's the most amazing scene, and you never know who's going to pop in. And what was your start in the city? Did you just, when you were doing these improv clubs, what got you that itch? Did you like, you know what, I think I could take this to the next level?
So when I moved to New York, I'd never really done comedy before. I just like felt like I was gonna be good at it. And it's weird because I really uprooted my life when I was 21 to do it. Like it wasn't like an obvious move. I didn't know anybody in the city, but I moved up, and I just remember like I'd saved up some money. I'd been working at a timeshare company, really ethical way to make money, but I was doing that. And then I was like, I have to stop doing this. So I had some money saved up. So I just took like a bunch of classes. I took sketch classes. I took improv classes. I took like filmmaking classes for like online videos and stuff like that.
Where did you take the classes?
All over. So UCB, the Pit. There was this other school that now I'm forgetting. Eventually I ended up teaching at Manhattan Comedy School. I might've taken some classes there too early on.
Did you know you wanted to move to New York to do comedy, or was that something you discovered while you were there?
I knew I wanted to do comedy, but I didn't even know what that meant. Like in my head,
you just wanted something, and like
I wanted something artistic, yeah, because I had not done that in my life before. The real story was that like maybe a year before that, like right before we graduated, I was young for my age. Which helped being new and not knowing anybody every year, was also being a foot shorter than the shortest girl. So my parents really hooked me up with a great setup to not be bullied. So I'd gone up there with an ex-girlfriend at the time, my girlfriend, and she was taking like a Second City class. And I was just like, I want to go to New York. Like, I don't want to not be there while you're there for 2 weeks. So I signed up last minute and got in the class and was like, ooh, that'll be fun. Like, what's an improv class like? And it was like improv and sketch. And I remember like by the second or third day of doing that, I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I like making people laugh and it's performing, and it was great. And we had like a little show at the end that was kind of like for the other people in the class, where we wrote sketches and picked people to act them out. But like, now I think back on it, I'm like, you know, I've done stand up in front of 2,000 people, but at the time, like, doing a sketch show was something I wrote in front of 12 other students was like this thing that was a big deal for me.
Mhm.
And I just said, I think this is what I want to do. And then we went back to Southern Virginia. I was still working my timeshare job and I was making money and I was miserable. And I was about to graduate college and I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go to New York. And then the plan was to move with that girlfriend, but then we broke up, but then I just went anyway. So it was kind of like, and I also had this policy in my life of like, if I wanted to do something, I would tell everybody in my life I was doing it. So I would be too embarrassed to not follow through.
To back out.
And that
Wow.
really is what happened with New York, because there were so many reasons to not do it. Like, multiple people said they were coming with me and then decided not to. At one point I had like an apartment lined up, and then the girl like took a job at her dad's company. So I ended up, within 3 months of moving to New York, I was squatting in a condemned building in Williamsburg, Virginia, taking comedy classes and burning through my life savings.
In
So there
Williamsburg,
was like
Brooklyn or Virginia?
Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I moved to Williamsburg, Brooklyn, because I didn't know anything about New York, and I lived in Williamsburg, Virginia, and I was like, oh, it's the same name, and that's literally why I moved there.
Williamsburg is a little. It's not the easiest place to survive necessarily either.
Well, I mean, I don't know what you mean by that. Like, it used to be fucking, you know, insane, like murder-wise.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, but you know, now it's different. Like, now it's like very like bougie, hipstery.
Because it's close
like,
to Manhattan. That's why.
When I moved there, it was like starting that bougie process of changing. But again, I was squatting in a condemned building, so I was in the part that was still like, I might die any minute.
That's what I'm saying.
But I was at the tail end of like it not being a great place to be. Yeah.
Oh man. So how did that lead? Was your first big break? Was it the America's Got Talent?
No. So I don't think, I think kind of like, this sounds so annoying to be like, forget everything you know about big breaks. But I don't think that's really a great way to describe it. It's like little stuff that when you're really working at something, you don't realize that you're going up until you like someone forces you to look back from where you started. Like, I got on a house team for improv at this place called The Pit, and that was a big deal at the time. And then from there, I got like a commercial agent, which just somebody came to a show and was like, you should do this. And then when I was doing commercials, somebody said, you should do voiceover, and voiceover ended up making me a lot of money over the years.
That's
So
what
it's
Joey
like,
Clax is going to be doing next, is voiceovers. He's got that voice. We've been telling him for years. That's his bread and butter. We're gonna. He needs an agent because
it's the bet. If you can make money doing it it's the best, because you get to work from home.
One of my closest friends does it for a living, and it's some of those paydays are just insane.
Yeah,
really
I mean,
insane.
yeah, and so I did have a lot of those opportunities happen, but it was weird in that like you're in especially just the New York vibe of like you're working 3 jobs, you're doing a show, then I would coach an improv team, then I would do a stand-up open mic, and you don't realize that things are moving for you, that you're going up, because you're just trying to like survive. But it was when I moved to LA 3 years ago, that was really the reason. I feel like I'd been in New York for 11 years. I was a little burned out. I was like, I'm ready for all my friends that went to LA were working on TV shows. And I was like, I think if I come out here, like I'll stand out from, you know, I'd flown to LA to do a couple things. And every time I was out there, I was like, you know, I would go to stand-up shows and be like, I'm funnier than the LA comics. Like, I'm just like, I feel like I feel like New York makes you better. the best way to
I
say
can't
it.
disagree with that. And I
Yeah.
know the guy with the LA hat might not agree, but I personally have been saying, I've been preaching this to them. It's just a soul that's there. There's a soul. I'm telling you, there's a New York soul that LA just doesn't understand.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's a vibe. It's like in New York, you step out of your apartment and like there's a homeless dude trying to stab you, and you don't even think about it. You're like, yeah, no, that's just a homeless guy. And
you
then
give him $1.
yeah, like dude, this is a true story. One time I got hit by a car in New York at like 10 o'clock in the morning. And then I saw my wife probably at 10 o'clock at night, and I forgot that I got hit by a car. Like I was like, how was your day? I was like, it was fine. And then I woke up at 2 a.m. with my arm. It was like discolored. They hit me right there. And I had to wake her up and be like, I can't go through the night and not tell you that I got hit by a car. And she's like, what? And I told her the story. But like, that's how wild that city is like, you really are, you don't realize how much adrenaline you have coursing through you while you're there. So I think it was like, I came out to LA, I immediately got America's Got Talent. My wife got hired on the Joel McHale show on Netflix. I got a job on that show, and I was like, oh my God, things are happening. But it's also because like in LA, like, it's a slower pace of life. I have a dog, like I'm going to restaurants, like I work one job a day. Like there's a little more ability to like think of your career because you're not fist fighting a naked dude to try to like get into a Target like you are in New York. Like it's just like you have more time to analyze where your life is. So yeah, I mean, I think obviously AGT was huge, MTV was huge, but the stuff that was happening in New York, it just felt like, it's almost like when I would have an accomplishment, I wouldn't even think of it as an accomplishment because I had 10 more things to do that day. So you don't process it like you would anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, that's how like Clax and I, when we would be touring with artists, halfway through the tour, you're already thinking about the next one and what's going to be the next one. So you don't actually enjoy what you're doing while you're doing it. You only enjoy it when you look back at what you've done and what you've accomplished. So I totally understand what you're saying about that.
It's just being present. That's not just for being a comedian or anything else. Like
that's for everything.
It's for everything. The ability to be like, I appreciate the journey that I'm on and the moment that I'm in, even if I don't have. The secret to happiness is being happy with what you have, not what you want to do or where you are going.
Mm-hmm.
Fox has taught me that. That's my man, Jordan Fox. If anything he's taught me is live in the moment, enjoy what you have, and don't worry about what other people have.
And so when you went into the America's Got Talent, so the people that don't know, we'll describe it in a second. But when you went on America's Got Talent, did you have the option to go in with your, like as a stand-up by yourself and you chose to do your death bit?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I didn't want to do the show with my own stand-up because you're not in control of the edit. So like you could crush and stand up and they could show like Simon going like a pew pew. And then that's what people think your stand-up is. So, and the producer I shouldn't say I found, the producer that found me, her name's Nyla Durrani. I met her at a comedy festival. She kind of looked up my death. I had like a solo show as this character I do, Death, and she loved it. And she was like, I want to put this on the show. And at the time, I think she was working on a different show. She was working on the Gong Show. So originally Death was going to go on there. And then I think that show got canceled. And she was like, we're going to find a place for it. And then I think she got hired on AGT. And then that's how I got on that show. But it was really like her pushing for it. And the whole time I was like, this is going to bomb horrifically. Like because I do that. I've been doing that character Death live in front of audiences. It was like one of the first things I started doing in New York. Like the story is convoluted. I won't go into it, but like, it was literally like a friend threw me a cloak when I was like 23 years old. And we were doing like a show in hell. And he was like, pretend to be Death, like 5 seconds before a show started. And it just grew into us making stuff and everything that it is now. So like, I know that like people's reaction when I come on stage is Death, whether I'm like, doing a clog dance or Shakespeare or stand up or whatever, I've done all of it. People are usually like not into it. And then like, if the bit goes long enough, they start laughing, then they get annoyed another 5 minutes in. And then by like the 15-minute mark, they're laughing hysterically because they get that the bit is that he's not good at whatever he's doing. But like,
and that's what I feel like it was too above when I watched, because I watched the whole thing from America's Got Talent. And I felt like at first like I thought Howie was gonna get it, and then he did, like he went off, and then
Oh,
obviously
yeah.
the other people, it just went over their heads. They were just like, this is dumb. It's like, you don't understand what he's doing. Like,
Yeah,
that's
but
what like.
yeah, no, sorry, I didn't cut you off.
Good. No, it was frustrating because I mean, obviously that crowd is probably not the best for that, probably, but it was like I was like, oh, Howie's gonna get it, and then I was like, oh no, he didn't. And it's a genius bit though. I love that so much.
And in honesty, like what you see on TV is not what happened in real life. Like in real life, like I was on stage for 7 minutes and I did get that little roller coaster, like the audience is against it. And then I have a couple jokes that really work. And then I told a joke about killing everybody's grandparents and they really didn't like that. And then that's where they actually start to X. I don't remember what made it. I know like in the show version, it's like really quiet in the edit, like they tell a joke and no one says anything. In reality, it was so loud. I was yelling my jokes because it was like half the crowd was angry at the other crowd for liking it. So the crowd was like booing itself. So it was, so what you see on TV is like, and again, this is why I didn't do my stand-up. It's not a reflection of what happened, but that people go, oh, you must be pissed. I'm like, no, dude, I was on the show for like 7 minutes. Like the whole point of the character is that he's not good at the thing he's trying. Like it's not like a reflection. Like I wasn't trying to win America's Got Talent. I was trying to have a memorable performance as this character. So the way they cut it was like what they kind of needed to happen in the show. And it was one of the coolest experiences. I mean, getting booed by 4,000 people as Grim Reaper is a rush. Like it's like you have feelings as it's happening. Like it's not like if you're a human being, you're like, you fucking assholes. But like, I mean, this is what I tell people is like the 2 months before I go on the show, I'm preparing myself to get booed. Like that's the whole. When Nyla's like, you're on the show, in my head, I'm like, maybe I won't do it. Like this is gonna be brutal. Like they're not gonna get it. But my wife's like, you should do it, and we kind of like just prepare to be booed. And then literally 3 minutes before I go on stage, one of the producers comes up to me. I'm standing in the makeup. Terry Crews is right there. There's the guy in front of me is about to go up, and then it's me. And a producer comes up and goes, this is like the funniest thing I've ever seen on the show, what you're about to do. Like she'd been watching my tape and she was like, I think this is the funniest thing. I cannot wait to see what you do. And just because I'm a comedian in my head, I go like, I'm about to win America's Got Talent. Like I just forgot. Months, I'm obviously going to be booed off stage by these, like the audience is literally like half high school cheerleaders, half methed out drug dealers. Like there's no way this is going to go well. But like, I kind of forget for a second and I'm start to like getting like illusions of grandeur or whatever. And then the guy in front of me is a singer. He sings. He's like a Hawaiian dude. He's got a beautiful voice. And they go, what? Who did you sing for tonight? And he goes, my father died 6 months ago.
Wow.
And then I go out and as soon as he said my father died 6 months ago, I go, oh my God, I'm gonna bomb so badly. This stay in character. Like it like snapped me back into it like moments before I walked on stage. And for some reason, as edited as my performance is, I think they just weren't paying attention in the edit. When you watch the AGT version, you can hear me getting booed as I'm walking out on stage's death. It's because in real life, 3 seconds before I walked out, somebody went, this next guy murdered my dad. And they went, go. And that's when they pushed me. So like, I don't know why they kept the audience booing death as he walked out. But there's something very funny to me about getting booed as you walk up to the microphone before you said anything, that like, it was hard not to laugh. Like that set me in a good place as an artist to be like, I'm deaf. I somewhat hate the audience already just because of like the job I have to do. I don't like reaping people, whatever, all that bullshit actor stuff I won't bore you guys with. But like, it got me in character to then like be on stage for 7 minutes and give them enough material to carve out something for their show. And I think that's why it ended up being such a big, like I was literally expecting it to be like 3 seconds of my face bombing and then that's what was on the show. it was commercial to commercial. They gave me a full backstory.
Yeah.
As soon as I bombed, I got off stage and we shot for 3 hours. We like picked up, there was like me like cutting the brakes on Simon's car. Like they shot all this extra footage to build a story around what they were going to cut out of my performance. So it was like,
Interesting.
it's, I always tell people reality TV's not real, but I'm very thankful for that show because it ended up being like the biggest credit I've ever had. And I got a bunch of Instagram followers from it, and really cool stuff has come since.
That's what I was going to ask you. What did that lead to? Like, did it like immediately, did it like have like an immediate, like all of a sudden you're just popped out there?
I mean, it would have been bigger if theoretically, if to have like whatever, how many people watch that show? Like millions of people watch that show. If it had been my actual face and my name, that would have been great. But for like, because it's a character, it's like I'd started an Instagram page like a couple months before the show, and the Instagram page got like 3,000 or 4,000 followers, like just from like Death Lives TV, which wasn't even displayed on the show. It was just like, if you type that into Instagram, like I would be the 10th thing that pops up. So a shit ton of people liked the show. And we were like, on social media watching the response to people when the show aired. And we're like, people are like getting mad. They're like, how could they boo this guy? And then the other people are like, because he sucks. And it's like, both of those are perfectly great for me.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. The more people talking, the better.
Yeah, please fight amongst yourselves. So, I mean, yeah, the videos online got like millions of views. So it ended up like, it put that character in a cool light, I would say.
Any offers for the character?
No, not really. I mean, look, I still have all that stuff. So it's like, that could happen down the road. I'm not going to tell tales out of school, but like, it's possible. Like the kind of offers I want are like, if I was going to put on that goddamn makeup, which takes like an hour, like I'd want to do that for like an actual TV show. So offers that weren't that are not really worth it.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a great premise for even a TV show. Like,
yeah,
the Reaper is trying to live everyday life as a startup stand-up comedian, and he's terrible at it. Like, I love the bit so much. It's genius. I think it's hilarious.
And I think there's a relatively decent chance he'll come back on AGT. I was kind of working on that for this year, and then I talked to a producer who was like, yeah, they don't know if they'll have a live audience, and I didn't do it because I was like, it would be weird if there was no audience there. But I'm sure in the future he'll make a return to the show and try to show off one of his other skills. So, it's not, his story's not done on that show, likely.
Good.
Yeah.
So how did your podcast come about? Like, are you a big football fan? Or, I mean, it's comedy, don't get me wrong. It's funny. But did you have like a love of football we know you love the Eagles. You went over that with us, but
yeah.
Where'd you come up with the concept? Tell us fans what your podcast is.
Well, the origin story of the podcast is that it was the beginning of the pandemic. I was masturbating 87 times before noon, and I was like, I need to do something else with my time. This is not, my dick's gonna fall off. So I was
us too, but it took us till like June to figure that out.
Yeah. So I was like, I need to do a podcast. It's just, whatever. I was like, my mom has a podcast at this point. I might as well fucking have one. And I was kicking around ideas, and my friend was like, look, man, he had a podcast and he quit. And he was like, it gets so old. It should be something that you really like doing and already do with your spare time. Otherwise you'll go crazy. Like, even if the podcast is successful, if you're just like doing it because you think people will like it and you don't like it,
the reason to do it.
It's not the reason to do it. And as he was saying that, I was watching a YouTube video of every Coy Detmer touchdown ever, which is like a short video. It's like 7 minutes. It's like he only threw 10 touchdowns, but it's like 15 angles of every touchdown. So man, you're like, you watch it for long enough, you're like, is Coy Detmer better than Dan Marino? It's like, no, it's not. If you just slow down any touchdown enough, you think, oh my God, look at this guy's arm. And I was like, I should do it on shitty NFL players because I find that very compelling. And I feel like most of us are backups in some way, or like very few people are like, I want to be this. And then it turns out to be exactly what they said. Most of us are like, I mean, no offense, we're all on this podcast. Clearly shit hasn't worked out perfectly for everyone. So like, we're all figuring it out. And I think there's something very human about the idea of a backup quarterback and like making fun, but also celebrating the fact that like, they did make it. To be the 50th greatest quarterback on planet Earth is a huge accomplishment. And just because you have like 2 touchdowns and 12 picks and a quarterback rating of 6 doesn't mean you're like a failure. It's just funny that like a bunch of fat dudes in Indiana would be like, yeah, that guy sucks. Like, no, you suck. That guy is amazing. It's so, I always had a joke. I was like, anytime I call a football player injury prone, I remember the time I farted and threw out my back. It's like, who are we? Who are we to tell these Titans that they are not amazing men? So yeah, that's how the podcast came about.
I love it. So we wanted to impress you here, and we wanted you to judge us. We came up with, on this show, we do our fired up 4. Not a list of top 5s, because that's what the loser shows do. We do a fired up 4. You have to make the top 4. We give some honorable mentions, but top 4. And we made our list of our fired up 4 backup QBs. John, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'll run through mine real fast. So yeah, we do honorable mention. So I'm going to go with one who my honorable mention first off is who is just going to turn into a backup quarterback this year. Mitchell Trubisky. Wow. I'm going to throw him in there as my honorable mention.
Wow.
He's got a, and he's on the Bills.
It's the worst pick ever.
Shut up. Anyways, so Mitch Trubisky is my honorable mention. Number 4, this guy never got a lot of playing time, and this is more of a hate on Jeff Fisher than it is more of I just hate Jeff Fisher so much as a Rams fan. Yeah. And I'm going to go with Billy Bullock as my number 4 because he never got the opportunity to do anything because Jeff Fisher is a piece of shit. So we're going to go with that one as my 4. Frank Reich is going to go number 3. I want to put him. No, Nick Foles is number 3. Nick Foles is my number 3. Frank Reich is my number 2. And then Earl Morrell is my number 1.
Earl Morrell, wow, you really
son of a bitch. Earl
really went, you really went on Wikipedia for your number 1.
I sure did.
And well, let's now before you get to my guy that I wanted to impress Fox with, why is he number 1 on your list?
Because all the lists told me that he was number 1.
You're an actor. Let me tell you why.
That's like me being like my favorite movie, Citizen Kane. I've never watched the movie, and you never saw Earl Morrell throw a pass. Why is Nick Foles number 1? You pussy.
Yeah.
His Wikipedia was legit. Okay. That's what I went with.
I mean, the reason why you should say, John, is you should say the man won 3 Super Bowls as a backup behind Johnny Unitas and the undefeated Dolphins. That's what you should have said. But because you had no answer, I agree with him. Pussy answer. 100%.
Also like that you guys gave an honorable mention, so it's still a top 5 after all your bullshit.
It could be actually a top 12 because we could have 6 honorable mentions. It really goes on.
It was a big lead in a bullshit, wasn't it?
All right. So there you go, Joey Clax. Why don't you Joey Clax has an Emmy Award from Saturday Night Live. You know that, right? Comedy show.
That's pretty cool, man.
He's pretty funny. You just don't know. He doesn't like to tell jokes, but he's a funny man, this guy.
And now you're on the All Fired Up podcast. So did you bang Lorne Michaels' wife? What happened?
Led you down this road.
Definitely not. So honorable mention, Fitzmagic, because yeah. Fitzmagic. I didn't really need to explain that. Number 4, Charlie Batch.
Great.
Wow.
99 leads the Lions to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind the Lions. Took Steelers 2-0 in 2005, which led to them winning the Super Bowl without him, but he was monster. I always loved watching him come into games. Number 3, Josh McCown.
Good one.
Got my whole list.
Tom Brady, Drew Brees were the longest active players than him.
Yeah.
And as we know, Drew Brees, not so much anymore. Number 2, because the cereal and you got to give back to the community.
Doug Flutie?
Flutie Flakes. Yeah.
You got my whole list in order right now.
And I don't really, and I don't really need to explain what Doug Flutie did, because you go fuck yourself if you don't know. Honorable mention number 1, not to be confused with an honorable mention, Jeff Hostetler.
I got it before he did. I knew he was got a big fucking Yankees thing behind him. I knew he was going to
and number 1, because when I was a kid watching this, I would giggle at the television because his name was Bubby Brister.
Great.
Saved Elway's ass in '98, and he had a pretty decent career with the Steelers and the Eagles too, I want to say.
Yeah, Steelers, Eagles, Broncos, Jets. I did an episode on Bubby Brister on my show, and Charlie Patch, by the way. So I take it back. I know I joked about I said Clack banged Lorne Michaels' wife, and that's why he's on this show. But clearly it's because he was given the task of doing a backups quarterback list and didn't put Nick Foles anywhere on it. Clearly that explains where you found yourself in life, my friend. What the fuck? How is Nick Foles not on that list?
You know exactly why Nick Foles is not on that list, because I live in New York and Nick Foles can go fuck himself. That's why Nick Foles is not on the list.
He does have a statue, though.
He deserves to be on the list, but you know, I went Homer.
I get it. It's fair.
Fox, would you like to go next?
My dog would like to give his top 5 of.
He's in there.
Yeah. So, honorable mention. One of Ethan's favorite QBs, turned starter, Kirk Cousins. You know,
garbage. He's trash.
Yeah, back up to 3.
That pick makes me happy on so many, many reasons. Yeah, it makes me very happy.
Thank you.
All right,
you like that? You like that?
Right. Another honorable mention. Logan Thomas was a QB for the Cardinals, and now he tight end. Doing work.
Yep.
Can't be mad at that at all. But now my number 4, my favorite Ohio State QB that never was, Mr. 4-3, Terrell Pryor.
Oh yeah, man.
Turn receiver.
Yep.
I thought he was gonna be the truth.
Is he still in the league as a receiver?
No.
Free agent.
Didn't his like girlfriend shoot him?
That's likely. I mean, he
stabbed him. It was either shot or stabbed in the abdomen.
Do you remember the scramble for a touchdown he had as a Raider when he was?
Yeah, that's a QB read.
Dude, I remember that too, being like, this dude's gonna be
right.
Like Randall Cunningham. I feel like they gave up on him at quarterback too quick.
They did.
He could have been like a Cam Newton type quarterback. I feel.
Yeah. Easily. My number 3. Actually, what was he last week? He was my number 2 in our fired up for last week.
Or who's gonna get the J-Lo?
Tim Tebow.
Tebow.
Boo.
Come on.
Boo.
Boo this man.
He took the Broncos to a place that I did not think the Broncos could go.
As a virgin.
Into an overtime game tied 2-2. That's where he took them. Took them to like 140 total yards in an NFL game, and somehow they won.
Yep.
Jordan's just trying to get into heaven right now. That's it.
Exactly. My number 2 beat Tim Tebow that year, Tom Brady. My man Stowe drew Bledsoe's starting job and never gave it back.
Hold on a second.
That's cheating. That's cheating.
Hold on a second.
Starts their first few games.
I gotta go on the record
He's
here.
not going to back up. Everyone starts as a backup.
I gotta go on the record.
Russell Wilson was never a backup his whole career. Actually, it's pretty crazy.
True.
Fuck Tom Brady.
We'll let
on the
Eric
record.
judge your list.
But I brought him up, and I was like, you know what? I need to move some people down.
I never bring up Tom Brady. I might have mentioned his name. He was not brought up, sir.
You brought up
Tom Brady.
Anyways, number one though, the greatest worst QB of all time, in my opinion, Trent Dilfer.
Trent Dilfer. Yeah.
Greatest worst QB of all time.
Yeah.
Dude,
The way he overthrows like out routes is hilarious.
I like the whole Ravens offense was like throw the ball to Shannon Sharp behind the line of scrimmage and let him break somehow 13 tackles.
Right.
To get 8 yards.
And then don't like if there's a way to not give the quarterback the ball. The Ravens were the only team I know that punted on second down. Like, our defense has a better chance of scoring than our offense does.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, that list was obviously dog shit, but I appreciate the complete violation of the rules and the spirit of a backup quarterback list. But outside the box.
All right, so
Tebow can't be on there. Tebow can't be on there.
Yeah, Tebow can't be on
what
there.
about Tom Brady?
Here's the thing about Tom Brady. It's like when I was starting my podcast, everybody was like, "Oh, you got to do an episode of Tom Brady," because like technically he was a backup quarterback. He wasn't like you were saying like everybody starts as a backup. Yeah, but like he was a 7th round pick that was the 4th string quarterback his rookie season. He was a actual backup, not going anywhere, and then injuries and circumstance led him to a great, obviously the greatest maybe career. But like all my friends were like, "You got to do a Tom Brady episode." I was like, yeah, dude, I'm going to have like 7 listeners to start. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get buried in the algorithm with the Tom Brady episode. So technically he's a fair choice for a backup quarterback list. But like, just so you guys know, for my show, the way I do it is I say for all of your games in the NFL that you were active, you had to have not played in more than half of them. So that's how I try to make it fair. And so then there are guys like Jeff Garcia, who I'm like, as an Eagles fan, I think of him as a backup, and I'm like, oh, he doesn't make the cut.
No.
Mark Brunell's pretty close to a backup at that point, huh?
No, he's not. I looked.
He played for like 10 years as a backup, I feel like.
Yeah, but he played for 11 years as a starter.
That's what I'm saying. He's close, but I'm saying you don't think about that, but he's like almost because he played so many years.
I'm going to cut this Mark Brunell slander. He was on the 91 Huskies who won the championship. My pops, we're just going to cut that. Dude, Mark Brunell is a great guy.
So did he go to UConn?
UW, Washington.
Oh,
91 Huskies. They beat Terrence Howard in Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Note to self: never talk shit about Mark Brunell.
Yeah, when Fox.
The 91 Huskies.
So just so you know about this guy Fox over here. So his father was an NFL player, and his great-grandfather's in the WWE Hall of Fame. And to me, that's the greatest accomplishment of all.
World champ, man.
Oh,
Jordan, were they joking around? Are you actually like on a team now, or are you trying to be on the team?
No, he's an American Ninja Warrior, though.
No.
Okay.
Not on a team.
No. He could be.
My little brother plays in Ottawa, CFL.
Nice. What's his name?
Natai Rogers. I'll send it to you. He's a right tackle.
Okay, cool.
See, the way it works on this show is when Fox signed a contract with us, you know how like in the NFL you can't go skiing, you can't do like extreme sports. Well, with All Fired Up, we don't let him play in the NFL, so that's really the reason why he's not in the NFL right now. We're kind of restricting him because he's that important to our show.
The idea of a podcast contract with career limitations is so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a joke, but it's gonna get there eventually, probably.
It's there. Next month we hit our 10-year anniversary of All Fired Up. I mean, we're one of the original Podfathers over here.
Yeah, with a 7-year break in the middle.
There was a 7-year break. That doesn't matter. Still had a solid 2.5-year run, and now we're back, baby. So
Let's hear your list.
It's going to be kind of short because you guys mentioned almost all of them already. My honorable mentions was Earl Morrall. Another honorable mention is Josh McCown, because I don't know that guy for some reason just keeps playing he's an Eagle. So he goes and coaches like high school football during the week and plays in the NFL on the weekends. So honorable mention. Number 4, Fitzmagic, for all the reasons that we mentioned. That guy, he's probably definitely more games back up than start.
He is.
So Fitzmagic. My number 3 was Nick Foles. because you can't have a list of without a Super Bowl champ. I mean, I could have went Hostetler too, but I think Foles, because he's from Philly, is more important to put on my list. Number 2, I had Doug Flutie for all the reasons why you said. The number 1 is the most important one. And when I first saw your podcast and I first listened to your podcast, there's only one quarterback came to mind. And he's got a lot of nicknames. They put him on an E60 last year, I believe, or maybe 2 years ago. The Hefty Lefty.
Oh my God.
That's one nickname. The
throw boy?
The round mound of touchdown.
The Pillsbury throw boy.
Pillsbury
number 1.
Boy. Jared Lorenzen.
Lorenzen.
Now, have you done a show on him yet?
No, I'm being a pussy about it because I'm like, I lightly roast all the quarterbacks on the show that's why none of them have come on my show, is because they probably listened to the episode before where I'm like trashing Cleo Lemon or whatever. So no, I haven't done him because I'm worried I'm gonna like lightly, because he died recently of drug overdose and stuff.
No, he didn't die from a drug overdose. He died from being fat.
No, he died from a drug. He was addicted to drugs.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm positive.
Oh man, I thought he died from like being fat. Okay, well that's a little different. I mean, maybe that's better if he died from. I don't know if it's better.
Well,
but
here's the point.
It's a magic combo.
Here's the point. I'm gonna do a podcast on him, and then someone's gonna write back like, "I'm Jared's sister. I think about him every day," and I'm gonna like not sleep for a week. So that's why I'm honestly like, I feel like.
Why don't you invite her on the show?
Yeah, these are not real suggestions. I had an idea. I had an idea to like have one podcast segment called "The Ghost of Jared Lorenzen," and I pussed out of that. It just feels like it's too soon. He was with us so recently. I can't do it. He's obviously like, obviously eventually I have to have him on because he's a fucking 380-pound quarterback
That has a ring.
He has a ring. Yeah, that's right. He was the third stringer on the Giants with that. I'll do a podcast, but I don't know, man. Like, I feel like I'd have to have such reckless abandon for the feelings of his family to do the podcast the way I do it and have him be dude, I feel bad. I had Eric Kramer. I did Eric Kramer on the show. And I didn't research him. I was just like, I need a Detroit episode because I got a Detroit comic. Sandy Danto was on the show. So I was like, who took the Lions to the playoffs? Oh, it was a backup. Great. Eric Kramer. And then as on the show, I'm like, all right, looking at his Wikipedia page, and I'm like, oh, his son died in 2010. He shot himself in the head in 2015, survived it. Then he got married to some woman who like threw a Me Too allegation at him. And then it came out that she was actually extorting him for money. And then she went to jail. Like he got like un-Me Too'd a year later. And I'm reading all this and I'm like, fuck, man, I really need to research these quarterbacks a little bit more before I pick them for the episode. So since the Eric Kramer debacle, which you can go listen to, I didn't edit any of it out. It's just like the whole podcast is me being like, I really shouldn't be making fun of this dude. It's a miracle he's alive. Since then, I'm like, I got to pick dudes that are living, that sucked, that can take the heat. They can take the heat of a podcast with 350 listeners that they'll never hear.
All right. Well, if you do a Jared Lorenzen one, you let me know. I'll call in on that one for you. I've got a take or 6 on Jared Lorenzen to get to. Let me tell you, and they're all positive. My takes. At least I think they're positive. I don't know if other people would agree with me, but I think they're positive.
But he went to Kentucky and was like one season they had a winning record and they were like, he's the greatest quarterback ever. Like just to not get smashed by Alabama by 50 points means you're the greatest Kentucky quarterback of all time.
Just watching that guy scramble was worth it all to me. Let me tell you,
dude, he could move.
He could.
People would think he didn't move like an offensive lineman.
No, he moved like an oversized linebacker.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, Eric, I'm glad you made it to the show. Whose list did you like the best?
I don't remember. I mean, I hated Jordan's, obviously. Tebow just took you out of the running. I want to say, I mean, if I say Clack's list, Can he tell me what he really did to get fired off SNL? Because I am very curious. I feel like he's danced around it.
I never got fired.
What did you say to David Spade after dress rehearsal? What did you say?
It was his Eddie Murphy impression.
Poor timing. Poor timing.
No, man. Look, I like that Charlie Batch made a list. I feel like he was Charlie Batch is a really good dude by every metric that I've seen since he got out of the NFL. So yeah, like everybody. The thing is, it's all subjective. It's a fun thing. I feel zero pressure when I talk about sports. I don't know anything about sports. I'm a fan of football, but like I played it for like a year before high school. I feel no pressure to be right about anything I ever say. Like it's just I'm all gut, baby.
That's like John over here. He never feels pressure to be right.
My way of analyzing like NFL rosters now is I'm like, who was drafted later? I root for that guy, period. And when I'm watching a game, I'm like, who's the underdog? I'm rooting for that person. That's why I like college football so much. There's always a team. It's always like Colgate playing LSU. There's always a team that has zero chance of winning that I root for. So whatever, the backup thing is like a microcosm of that. So it's all subjective. It's like Jordan's list. He's like Tebow was a backup quarterback and Brady counts. It's like I can't really say you're wrong about that.
He's got really big muscles too, so we don't really question him too much.
What I'm saying is like when I'm honest about it, everybody's list is unique to them.
Everyone gets a joke.
There is no right and wrong answer. And if you just take a deep breath in and realize that we're present in the moment, I support all of your list. But obviously Jordan's.
But I won.
Obviously Jordan's was wrong and Clax was right.
Yeah.
Now, who did you physically assault in the back room while they were in costume? What did you say to Alec Baldwin on his 8th time hosting the show to lose the biggest opportunity of your life? Out with it.
Who said he lost it? Who said he's not still there?
No, I like this story much more.
Yeah, it's getting better and better. The Clax myth. I like this too. I think we should keep it.
I like this.
All right. Well, Eric, thank you for joining us today. Definitely don't be a stranger. If you ever want to come back on the show and shoot the shit with some sports, who knows? Maybe a big backup QB story pops out. We might need you, man. We might need your expertise. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Do you guys have any final thoughts for today, Clax? Any final thought?
Yeah, total homer pick. Knicks go to the Eastern Finals and play against the Nets and lose in 4. At least that's what I put in my pool today. So,
dude, is there anything the NBA could use more than a Knicks Nets playoff series? That would be so awesome.
It really would.
I'd watch every game, man.
Yep, all 4 of them. But
the Knicks will take one. The Knicks will win one.
I hope so.
It's a gentleman's sweep. What do you got, Fox?
Okay, so I did not know this. I ran across this stat, pretty crazy. So for the past, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, past 5 NFL seasons, each Super Bowl winner has had basically chronological bye weeks. So when the Pats won in 2016, that was week 9. Eagles 2017, they had a bye week 10. Pats 18, week 11. When the Chiefs won in 2019, week 12. Bucks last year, week 13. So basically, one would assume the next Super Bowl winner is week 14.
No.
And that is the Pats, Dolphins, Eagles, and Colts.
Oh, baby.
I got the Dolphins, if that's the case.
Out of those 4, I'd take the Colts, even though I'm an Eagles fan.
Carson Wentz and the Colts?
They're losing week 1 anyway, so that's going to be bad for them.
John, got any final thoughts today?
No, I did see that stat that Jordan brought up. That's really great. That's
a great stat, and you should make all football predictions based on that stat.
Right? No.
Every like ESPN show should be nothing but, well, of course, the chronological bye week comes into factor here. And like, I think they should just end the season now, and those 4 teams should have a Super Bowl round robin.
This is not get any
love
players.
that
Sir. Let's
stat.
just go around it. No. My final thought is I hate that I pay $100 to watch a sport and there's blackout restrictions. It's like leagues don't want any fans to watch their sports with blackout restrictions, and I fucking hate it. That's what I'm saying right now.
Oh, you probably can't watch a Dodgers game tonight. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, I figured that's what it was about.
You're in Arizona. No one likes the Dodgers.
They're playing Arizona though.
Right.
Sorry.
Final thought. We got some league awards coming up in basketball. The MVP
Oh, here we go.
is Steph Curry. Like I said, he would be at the beginning.
Jesus. All right, enough.
Leader in scoring, Steph Curry. Like I said, he would at the beginning of the year. You guys said the
How
Warriors.
can you
wouldn't
still
make
talk
the
with
playoffs?
this ball so much in your mouth?
And then here comes the take. You ready? They're going to the finals this year.
No, they're
No,
not. No, they're
jeez.
not. They're losing in the play-in game. Enough.
They're going to the finals.
Ethan. I got something for you, just to help push your narrative.
Come on, help me.
Steph Curry, oldest scoring title winner this year, 38 30-point games, 337 threes, most ever, 7 10.3 games.
No one in their career has more than 3. He's got 7 this year. Continue.
That's what I'm saying. 5.3 3-point field goals per game, and he's the all-time Golden State scorer.
That's,
Happy?
And they're playing the Lakers.
and I want to say,
Get
folks,
me,
I've
Steve,
been waiting.
hoping to make the playoffs.
Listen, they're gonna go in, and if they play the Jazz or they play the Suns in the first round, that's what's gonna end up happening, right?
No, it's not.
If they make it to the playoffs, the 7th or 8th seed, they play the Jazz or the Suns.
No, they're playing.
They're not. They're playing the Lakers, and they're playing
The Lakers, and that's it.
No, and then they play, and then they get another chance to get in. They could beat
Yeah,
Milwaukee.
Grizzlies or the Spurs.
They're not losing to the Grizzlies or the Spurs if they lose to the Lakers. I'm sorry. No, they're not. They're going to play. So they're going to go in.
It's
I
me
just thought
back.
I'd mention that. Hit us up, Spotify, Apple Music, Bullhorn, Pornhub. We don't know where people are listening to us. 45% come from somewhere, and we don't know. But keep listening. Next month, 10-year anniversary episode. Until next time. Eric, what do you got to say?
I want to tell people where to go to my website.
Go to your tell them, please.
Give
Give
my fucking plugs, dude. Come on.
No.
You can follow me on social media. Yeah, my final thought is I went on this podcast that wouldn't let me plug my shit yet.
Not about you, man.
Past the
Not all
part where I
about
get
you.
people to support me.
God, all about you.
Yeah, follow me on social media. My name, ERICK HELLWIG. You can find all my comedy on my website, which is tubgirl.com. That's tubgirl.com. That's a very specific joke that only I think Ethan got. No, you can go you can go to erichellwig.com. Nobody go to tubgirl.com.
I'm going to it right now.
No, you're not going to it right now. Go to erichellwig.com. For all comedy, my podcast is there, and you can support the show that way.
How do we support the character Death? What's his site?
Well, if you go to erichellwig.com, he's there too, but he's Death Lives TV on all social media stuff as well.
Throw your podcast out there.
Bring in the Backups, which you can follow Bring in the Backups on social media, but to find all of it, you go to erichellwig.com, and there's links for all my projects where you can support your pick of my comedy.
John, what's the name of his website?
ERICKHELWLWIG.com. Eric with the K.
What happened to those L's?
I got confused.
You chopped that up pretty bad. I just wanted you to say his name. That's all I want. I didn't think you were going to.
Well, I mean, Eric, nobody spells Eric with the K, so I was just trying to help you out, bro.
Eric with it, yeah. Eric, for some reason, I resent having to spell my name for people a lot. I really should start doing that. Yeah, it's Eric with a CK, and then it's hell like the place, wig like a thing on your head.
Love it. Absolutely. Anything else I missed on this episode? Because obviously I've forgotten a few things here today. So far, I got short-term memory issues. We were talking about this before the episode.
Did you press the fucking record button?
I did press the record button. That's the first thing. The second podcast when we were 10 minutes in and realized it wasn't recording. I've never done that since, so I'm pretty good. I do sometimes forget to stop the recording, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it. Everyone check it out. ERICKHELLWIG.com. Anything you need to see on this man's comedy. Hopefully we'll be seeing you back on TV soon with your new TV show. That's what I'm looking forward to out in LA, my man.
Hey man, you got it's all in your hands, right to your right to producers of TV shows and let them know.
We'll let Joey Clax, he's an Emmy Award winning producer. We'll let him talk to some people for you and we'll make this happen.
I'll sleep with somebody for you. We'll get you in there.
You've done enough sleeping with people.
That's
You've
why
done enough.
He's the legend, Joey Clax, the Queen Women since 1917. Oh, fired up.